Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm Lindsey Castleman, one of your hosts today, and of course, I'm here with my friend Aron Strong.
Sup, Lindsay?
Hello, Aron. Man, we're back. We just had Mike Vaughn with us, which was a lot of fun. Really enjoy him and just enjoy the wisdom that he brings.
Hmm.
But as it's fun to have these more, I don't know if you call them like one-offs with friends.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
love the fact that some of the connections that we've been able to make and they have such great wisdom and
mhm,
different fields and different perspectives and I think that's one of the things maybe what people love listening about podcasts and what we love about doing them is just
mhm.
having kind of engaging conversations and so we really loved having Mike here and he's such a smart guy and so
Yeah.
humble,
Yes. Yes, and running a great program
for
as
sure.
well, which is awesome. And before that, it's always that funny thing where I go, man, because you and I do supervision, not together, but
Right,
you
right.
have your supervisees, I have my supervisees, and so much of what starts to feel relevant to talk about on here, like comes from the questions that our supervisees give us, which
Yeah,
is
right.
helpful, because you go, okay, is what we're talking about, is it actually relevant? And you
Yeah,
go, well, our supervisees are coming to us with it. It must be. But then there's another part of me that's like, I just feel all the neurons in my brain firing. That's like, we gotta talk about this, we gotta talk about this. Wait, we got a series over here, a series over there. And then now here we are, we're gonna enter into a brand new series.
yeah.
And we'll see how long it goes, because who knows? We might
Who
go
knows?
back to another series at some point. But, anyways, with this one, because for you and I, and honestly, a lot of what I think people like about being supervised by both of us is how much time we spend with people on getting therapists to really understand, especially new therapists,
Right.
like why why are people doing what they're doing?
That's right.
Because
The-
if they don't know what's
yeah,
happening in front of them, we're just going to just maybe like try. I kind of talk about we'll just throw anything on the wall and hope it sticks.
right. I think the biggest task when it comes to create, like when I think about the therapies that are out there, the modalities that are out there, when it comes to sitting with a client in a room, the biggest question is how do you define the problem? Like, what
Mhm.
is the problem, and how
Right.
do you know what it is? And is it just what the client says? Is it just the presenting problem? I'm just having this small thing. Or do we
Mhm.
have the ability to kind of look and see what's happening underneath that to
Mhm.
a more deeply rooted structural issue that's showing up in all these ways, right? So
Yeah.
I always like to say that people don't tell you what the problem, they tell you all the ways their failed solutions aren't working to solve their problem, right?
Right.
Like they walk in and say, here's all the things that aren't working.
Mhm.
And so the question is what's really happening? Like what's really going
Mhm.
on?
Yes, yes. And the more that we're able to see that, but then even as therapists, be quicker to speak that
Right.
to them,
Yep.
is so, so helpful because then it's like, oh my gosh, somebody gets this. They get it. But then we take that same attunement, really, that same way of being with people and understanding how they operate. And then we take that even into our parenting.
Yep.
We take it into just how we sit with other people. And it can be easier not to be offended or not to get riled up when you go, oh, okay, I see what's
Right.
happening in this.
Absolutely.
And it's not, especially for those that come at us, where you're like, oh, okay, it's not what I'm doing here that's making you that upset. This is something happening in you. I just happen to be in the line of fire. I
Yeah.
just happen to be the next person that's doing this thing too.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. There's a sense of these things that people have built or structured in their life to protect them or save them or rescue them or fill the hole or whatever the thing
Mhm.
is. We're watching the way it shows up, which often can give you a faster access to what's happening underneath.
Correct.
Um, people show you the ways they've been wounded by all the weird and inappropriate ways they respond to things, right? It's
Yeah.
like this giant neon sign. I've been wounded over here, and you can tell because I'm doing all these weird things. And when you're able to see it, not as just the presentation, but you can really see there's something really fundamental here. And if every person is loved by God, if every person was designed to be in relationship with Him, there's not just bad people,
Hmm.
right? There's people doing bad things or things
Right.
that don't work or wounded people or whatever, but trying to really understand what's going on below the surface and discovering something I can bond or connect to because I'm like, oh, I see that. Then my compassion kicks in. That gives me often the fortitude to put up with it or whatever weird thing they're doing. I'm like, what the
Hmm.
heck? That's
Yeah.
what you're doing?
Right.
Right. So I need both of those things, I think.
I think we all need both of those things for sure. For sure. Yes. And having that compassion is huge. Like even going back to being able to still stay with people even when they're behaving badly. Like it doesn't mean that we're taking any sort of abuse or we're not drawing boundaries or lines. I mean, I still remember looking a client in the eyes and saying, it's not okay for you to speak to me that way.
Hmm.
And I also get that you're hurting, right?
Hmm.
We're holding both in the
Yep.
same time.
That's right.
That we can have really the window of tolerance, the capability to do that. Um, and, going back to what you were saying that, you know, people do show us, but in their behavior, the
Right.
ways that they've been wounded, the ways that they've been hurt, I can tell more and more, especially attachment-based modalities, have been saying, let's not go dig into the past
Hmm.
just for like kicks and giggles. Like
Right.
let's not go do that because we have to see based on the behavior that shows up today what wound is tied to that behavior. So
Yeah.
just because there was this big, big wound that happened in the past, it doesn't mean all the behavior is tied to that one big, big wound. It could
Yeah.
still be some of it,
Yeah.
but this is where with so many modalities, I keep hearing over and over, and I feel it too within me when I sit with people. I'm not like, well, let's talk about what happened to you from 0 to 5, now five
Right.
to 10,
Yep.
because the pain in you, the wounds in you will show me
That's right.
what happened to you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's kind of felt that way early on when attachment histories were the big thing to do when you're doing
Right.
attachment work. Like you gather all of this information about all their significant attachments and traumas and stuff throughout their life. And then at the end of that, I'd be like, so what do I do with all this stuff? Like
Hmm.
it was a bunch of stuff that I didn't know what to do with. And then you work with them and you're like, oh, okay, these parts are the relevant parts of all of what's happening. So then I was like, wow, stop gathering stuff I don't need and
Right.
let the wound tell me where to go look,
Right.
right? Like
But
you have a feeling of abandoned for a reason, right? It
correct.
happens. Who abandoned you? And they're like, how did you know someone abandoned me? Because you feel abandoned. So where
Hmm.
did you learn that?
Hmm.
And so that sense of when we're able to connect to what's happening underneath, it reveals where to go look to see
Hmm.
what formed the beliefs around this feeling, what strategies they developed. They're probably still continuing
Yeah.
because it's what they got. So I love this idea of the series where we can kind of practice conceptualization or take
Hmm.
certain presentations that may be more difficult or challenging or common that people run into to say, okay, so what's going on with this thing?
Right.
And taking a peek below the surface and connecting both in the compassion side and then the so what do you do with it side.
Yes, which is why we're starting this new series, right? Kind of that place of like, drum roll, please.
Here we
But
go.
that new series, it's what's really happening with dot, 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 right? And
Yep.
so we're going to really try to dig underneath as to what's happening to different presentations that show up in our office. So the
Yeah.
first one that we are really diving into today, and of course, because I know both you and I partner with a lot of churches and just our practices partner with churches, we see a lot of believers that come into the room. So it's what's really happening with the perfect Christian.
A perfect Christian. And I like how we make it like this giant reveal when it's probably on the title of the podcast they clicked on.
Oh, it is. It is. It will be put on the title, for sure.
But still, right? What's going on with this perfect Christian? What's that about?
I know, I know. They're like, oh, we already know it. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Yeah. But what we will see, and really, as we break down the perfect Christian, we've had, I know for me, I was telling you before we started recording this, I've had several supervisees come in where the behavior of those who, people who in the church show up as though they have everything together. Like it's all together.
Right.
But then they're showing up with these places inside of them that have taken over, have led them to a lot of it has been porn,
Hmm.
is what the presentations that we have seen. Everything on the outside looks great, but secretly there's something else happening. There might have been betrayal to some degree, whether, an emotional affair or a physical affair. Um, but those are several
Yeah,
that
drinking
I've
is
seen.
often one that's often well hid
Did you
that
say
kind of hide.
drinking?
Yeah, like
Yes.
alcoholism or alcohol abuse, even if it's not alcoholism,
Mhm.
substance abuse, those kinds of pills. Even if it's not an illicit drug like marijuana or something, it can be like a pain reliever or something that just
Mhm.
takes an edge off.
Right.
Um, yeah, those are other things that
Mhm.
kind of hide in the background.
Right, right. And then the difficulty, though, is that at least for the ones that my supervisees have brought me into lately, is it's then whatever it is then found out. So their spouse has brought them in for
Hmm.
couples counseling to come in. But this is so hard. I was trying to describe to my supervisee how tough it has to be, though, for somebody who has put so much weight, so much stock, so much importance. I mean, just so much of who they are, their identity, into how other believers see them.
Yep. And if you look at it from like, if there is and maybe the younger generations are moving away from this a little bit, but when social media came out, the ability for people to craft their image
Hmm.
through social media, which is still a thing, but you can craft and that's one thing. You can live your life, but on online you can craft an image. These folks we're talking about don't just do it online; they have to live it like all the time. Like that's what they're in every interaction they have in their marriage, in their relationships, when they walk into church, like they're online
Hmm.
all the time. And
Hmm.
so there's this pressure that they feel consistently that must manage people's perception of them to see them in this particular way.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And kind of what I was telling my supervisee is just imagine what a house of cards that would feel internally for them, for that all to come crashing down. Like it's
Right.
almost like you cannot hold it up anymore.
Hmm.
You're starting to feel crushed under the weight of it. But that's the difficulty is we still can't give it up. We're still trying to hold it back up. It's like the cards fell. Now we're trying to go over here and maybe super glue some back up,
Right.
but it's still just as shaky because a
Hmm.
lot of times, the what we offer is we're going to offer the anecdote to all these hiding secret things is community, right?
Right.
And so we're going to offer things that are in the dark, bringing it to light, going to meetings, going to groups, confession. Like we want to bring it into the light and into community so that it can find that it's one, not alone, two, that there is grace, three, there is accountability, right? But just that we don't have to live in such this, this prison of, right, of performance, of things like that. Like we don't have to live in that prison. There's freedom here.
Right.
That's the resistance. The resistance, like the very thing they need, is the very thing they're terrified of. Other people
Right.
seeing this in
Hmm.
them
And
and
they've learned,
yeah.
yeah, they've learned somewhere
Hmm.
that being known isn't safe or
Right.
allowed or accepted. Uh, and that's very difficult when you need to feel bonded and connected.
Hmm.
But the message you receive is it's your performance that matters,
Hmm.
it's your presentation that matters, it's the reputation of the whatever, the family, the church, the business matters. And so it's impact of whatever the reveal would be. And the problem is that when we're talking about a lot of these kind of dysfunctional behaviors, those aren't the things that cause the image up front.
Hmm.
They're what happen after you've been bearing the image for a while and you can't bear it and you need relief from the false identity. You
Right.
turn to those things for relief. It's not the core issue. The core issue is what caused them to put this armor on in the first place so that
Hmm.
everyone saw them as this big and this manicured and this painted. Because if someone saw me without my armor off, then I would, be weak and
Right.
small and dismissible or whatever, or judged. And so that's the thing that drives
Hmm.
all the negatives. But their worst fear is often created because when that image falls and what is seen as what they've done to sustain themselves in some negative way, that then becomes everything they're known for, and they're still not known.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. Because now they're in a hiding in a different way.
Right. Now they're just like this piece of crap. Like their worst fears have come true. You're
Hmm.
just this terrible broken person who's done all these whatever things they are
Hmm.
that are the opposite of whatever you've espoused. And
Hmm.
then you have to figure that out. But you still don't feel safe and connected because
Right.
now you're the pariah or you're everyone cheers when the idol falls. Everyone
Hmm.
wants to be the idol and everyone wants to tear the idol down, right? That's
Sure.
how it goes.
Sure. Sure. And, to a degree, it's, even when you look bigger picture, I mean, I know me having to navigate right now the school systems, which we've had fantastic educators for my kiddo, but even just the way that you look at how so much of our society is set up, it is set up to honor and applaud those that do show up in perfection, those
Right?
that do show up without a lot of need.
Yep.
Those that can show up and ace the test, they can hit the home run, they can do whatever. Like that can feel really good,
Yeah.
right?
It's more than just because I'm thinking as we're talking about it, I mean, it's the perfect Christian is kind of what we're talking about. We're going to dial into that
Mhm.
scope, but even in the work environment where performance is what matters, nobody wants to have to contend with all your brokenness. Take care of that someplace else. You just need to show up the way you're supposed to show up
Mhm.
and perform, that's all that matters, then it can even reinforce that. So
Mhm.
if that perfect Christian has an external environment, whether that's like maybe they're a pastor or maybe they're, working for a corporation, right? That's oftentimes what's communicated to people. I don't have time for your brokenness. I just need your performance.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
answer isn't to not perform, right? We can't
Right.
just be dysfunctional and broken all the time. But
Mhm.
how are we authentic and push through those things to show up fully as ourself in the best ways that we can? It's like it's not one or the other. We're trying to be a
Mhm.
whole person.
right. And starting to help those that we sit with, right? Those that are showing up as the perfect Christian, really feeling the weight of what they're carrying inside. Like for us as clinicians, to feel that weight, to feel what it would feel like to constantly have to show up a certain way with everybody, to have all the right answers, to be able to be on, no matter which. If somebody asks for someone, they're like, yep, I'll do it. Like there's just
Yep.
the amount of burden that they're having to bear in that and to hold it all up is immense amount of pressure,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then it can start to feel lonely because going back to what you were saying, Aaron, is that no one really knows them, probably not even themselves,
Right. Because
right?
where's the space where that's going to happen? Who,
Right,
and then even if somebody asks, what are you going to say?
right, right.
Oh,
And to some degree, who do you trust to hold it for you?
right.
Right.
Because how would you assess safety if
Hmm.
nothing feels safe? Because it's so hard because when you're trying to protect yourself in that way, any leakage is
Hmm.
potential exposure,
Hmm.
right? Any person that can see past the veil has the ability to tear it all down.
Hmm.
Everything's exposed. It's really kind of what amazes me about some of the celebrities that fall hard. And then you hear all the things you're doing, and you're like, how did you think no one's going to share that information? You know what
Sure.
I
Sure.
mean? You're just doing
Sure.
that with all kinds of people. You're just letting all that stuff everywhere.
Yes.
Uh, but on the other side, then there's people who let nobody know anything to try to protect all that. And then when there are things you are the most worried of being found out about,
Hmm.
there's a fear associated with that exposure, which often increases the judgment of that in others.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I'm terrified that someone's going to know that about me, so I'm like trying
Right.
to get it as far away from me as possible. And so we
Hmm.
are really moving it to point it out to others of
Hmm.
like, so we make this huge stance against things that we are secretly struggling with
Right.
simply to make sure that no one's looking at us in those regards.
Right. Because they're not. If you're the ones pointing people other places, they're not going to be looking at you. But that's what, even I know we watch that Brene Brown video all the time about blame, where it is
Right?
talking about, man, it's that discharge of discomfort and pain. You got to get it out of your body. And so it's good to get it and put it over on others,
Yeah.
you know?
When you're carrying that level of distress in
Mhm.
yourself and there's no one to share it with,
Hmm.
then ascribing it to someone else lets it go
Hmm.
somewhere.
Right, right.
Right.
And I believe there really is a belief in there that if everybody else would show up the way I'm showing up, then I wouldn't feel so uncomfortable in here. You
Sure.
know,
Right.
that's what I will hear people say is, no, 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 if you wouldn't have done these things, then I would not have stepped out, or I would not have, if you would have made all of this more comfortable for me out there. But you're going,
Right.
no, we're going back to what we said at the beginning about behavior. No, the
Right.
behavior is not pointing that there's something out here that's not doing okay. The behavior is pointing that there's something in here that's not
Hmm.
doing okay.
Yep.
And that's what we got to look at for
And when
sure.
you know you're doing things that aren't right, then you are deeply in touch with how wrong they are. Well, then it's easy to speak authentically, condemning so many things that you're guilty of.
Hmm.
Because you know how bad they are. You're doing them, right? You just
Hmm.
can't let people know that, but you're deeply connected to how destructive they are, especially if people are like, no, it's all fine. Think about porn or something like that. There's
Right.
so many voices that are like, no, it's all fine, just whatever you want, consenting adults. And they're like, no, it's harmful, it's harmful. And they know it because they're trapped in it, but they can't tell anybody. So then it just sets them up as this false image. And then they get proud by their presentation. I think that's the hardest part
Yes.
about the perfect Christian is the fake pride that's
Hmm.
all based on the illusion they've constructed.
Hmm.
Look, I can show up in all these places really well, even if I'm broken over here. Look at all the ways I'm doing really good.
Hmm.
They just keep
Hmm.
their eyes averted, uh,
Right.
and then just self-justify.
Right. And the sadness, honestly, Aaron, with all of this, the undercurrent sadness with all of it is that in this whole like trapped, horrible cycle that's happening, they're still completely missing Jesus
Totally,
and
totally.
just the richness, the comfort, going back to the freedom. Um, he actually, and this is the hard part too, he actually a lot of times stayed away from those who tried to present as the perfect Christian. Like he's like, I actually, I'm gonna head over here. You know,
Right?
I'm gonna hang out with Zacchaeus or what was that? Was it Levi? I think.
Matthew?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, who like anyways. But there was just all these people where you're like, oh, he's like, no, I'm gonna go hang out over here, you know.
Right?
Um, and
Oh, that's when he went to Matthew's house, and that's when all the Pharisees were like, "Oh, look at you eating with all those prostitutes and sinners."
yes,
He was at
yes,
Matthew's. Yeah.
yes. Why did I think Levi? Is Levi?
Because that's his other name.
Okay, okay. I was like, I
Levi.
had just read it Levi, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay,
Kind of
got
like
it.
how you had Peter and Cephas, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, got it, got it. Um, so that's a lot of times where you would see Jesus is he's just like, man, here I'm gonna go hang out with those who it's obvious by their profession and the way they do their profession, like their reputation for their profession,
Yep.
um, that they are not the perfect anything here.
Right.
You know, I'm going to hang out with them because their heart is a little bit more open to actually being with me, right?
Yeah.
Because the judgment's not clouding it,
Right.
right? But then there's that sad part to go, but we still got to minister to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Like,
That's
we
right.
still want freedom for them. We don't
Yep.
want them to stay in a life trapped in judging others and protecting themselves and self-preservation. Like, you don't
Yep.
want that. You know, you
Yeah.
want for them to be able to really get in touch with their brokenness that we all have. There's not a one of us that will ever be able to present ourselves as whole. Like
Right.
we just won't.
Yeah.
Um, and
Jesus did
really,
condemn
yeah.
those Pharisees and the Sadducees, but he also went to the house of Nicodemus, right?
Hmm.
Who
Hmm.
was in that category because he wanted to talk and he was interested and open. And so
Hmm.
there's a sense of openness that Jesus was always being drawn towards.
Hmm.
And he was disrupting a thing for a purpose where he was there. But his statements that I stand at the door and knock always, and if you just open the door, I'll come in, is the invitation that always stands open with every client we work with. Because no
Right.
matter their presentation, no matter what they walk in with, there's still a knock at the door for them to
Hmm.
enter into something new and to grow and change and transform.
Right.
And it's almost very difficult when we get a perfect Christian in, because usually they don't volunteer to come in like the narcissists. They're not just choosing to go to therapy, right?
Right.
Usually there's something that makes them show up. But but what we want to help them know is there's a safety in this new way that they
Hmm.
will naturally be resistant to, and if we just believe everything they do on the surface, then it will turn our stomach and we will harden against them. And then there's a sense of almost abandonment that we will do towards our client because we just don't like the way that they have protected themselves.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a supervisee that told me they were like, man, I ended up firing this client because of how they showed up. And I was like, oh man, you're not gonna like my direction for you. You know, you're gonna have to actually go back and say, hey, I'm sorry I got out of my window of
Yeah,
tolerance. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. And the things you said did hurt me. but I don't want to leave you. I don't want to abandon you. We can just put better boundaries around our time together,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and they were like, oh, and I was like, I know it's
I
hard,
know.
but
It's so much
then we
easier just
have
to
to
walk
start to,
away.
oh, say that again, Aaron.
It's so much easier just to walk away than to go do the work. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Go
Oh,
lean in.
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. That's even to a degree going back to the school systems where I'm like, there's so much stuff that my kid is having to learn that he won't use ever, like ever. And it's hard and it's tough and it's kind of nonsensical. But that's what I tell him. I'm like, the skill that we're learning is we're learning how to sit down and do hard things even when we don't want to.
Hmm.
Like that's the skill we're learning here. Like
Yep.
you're not ever going to use this ever. It's not going
Right.
to matter. But that's like that's what we're trying to fortify here, you know. So Aaron, as we sit back, as we look at, what we're trying to encourage here is one, we're trying to have compassion,
Hmm.
right? Just on the perfect Christian who is resistant to everything you're doing, who's questioning everything that you're doing.
Who already knows everything you've already said. Oh, I already know all that.
Right, right. Who's going to push every button? You will end up starting to feel very small and you'll
Yep.
question yourself. That we start to look at that way as a very protective, those are protective maneuvers that we want to have compassion for because what we remember is the bigger the internal protection is directly equated to the type of fear that they
Yeah.
have of being seen
Yep.
in this way that they know they are, because we all are. Like we
Yep.
all are inadequate. We all have fallen short. It's just what's true. And when we start to get into a place where we can sit back and go, daggum, I messed that up. Let that be seen.
Yep.
Commune with God and others in these places. Like, man, the freedom that comes from that, where we are able to just be authentic. Um, I feel like if as all Christians we moved into that authenticity, I do believe people would find church a little bit of a warmer place
Right.
to
And
be.
even our therapist office, when we are so offended and turned off by a perfect Christian presentation in our office,
Hmm.
uh, where will they learn that it's safe to be broken?
Right.
Right? Because we're the ones who can, who are the best positioned, not just to see through the veneer to what lies beneath, but how to create conditions where it's safe to access it and let it know that there's at least here it's safe to be broken. At least here you don't have to be perfect. At least here
Hmm.
you can be known and cared for. You can be measured and accountable, but you'll still be cared for.
Hmm.
I remember though, like when I was thinking about that when you had to look a client in the eye. I remember I had a client I had to sit down and say, "You are allowed to be mad and angry and not like stuff I say in here, because you matter and I care about you. You are
Hmm.
not allowed to slam my door when you leave.
Hmm.
You're not allowed to slam my door,
Right.
but you can be mad. That's
Sure.
fine. It's okay,
Yes.
right?" And so measuring that sense of I see you and I understand there's still boundaries
Hmm.
and consequences for that, but not a rejection, not an abandonment, not a sense of I'm going to see you different now,
Hmm.
because I know all the things you're doing, all the things that you do.
Right.
And so I want to invite you into this new space where you can step out of that protection to be known.
Hmm.
It's like a snail, right? Like it's all so soft, it like stays inside its shell. Like that's what it really is. But, it takes a lot of coaxing to let that thing come out. And so you can care
Hmm.
for what's living inside all of that protection.
Right.
And then help them know, you know, uh, the ways that the perfect Christian's showing up is actually more harmful than helpful. But how do they navigate safe relationships
Hmm.
when apparently it seems they've not either had them or allowed themselves to engage in them to a degree that has shifted the ways that they do their life.
Right. And two, when they show up at the beginning and start to feed you, a lot of those messages that have to say, oh, that doesn't affect me anymore. I've given that to Jesus. I don't think of that anymore. I'm here for her. I'm here for him. I'm here, whatever, you know, that we sit back and we're like, internally, we don't believe it.
For sure.
Because again, we know our theology and we know that all are broken, all fall short. And we
Hmm.
also know that the more that people got close to the presence of God, like the closer that they got to the presence of God, it's not like they were like standing up and puffing up their chests and like, Lord, check me out as like how great I'm doing, right?
Right.
But the more they got to the presence of God, the more they couldn't look.
Right.
That they
That's
had to
right.
look away. They had to bow down. They had to like get into a fetal position, and not because they feel horrible about themselves, but there is a place of realizing who we are and who we're not, which
Yeah.
is humility.
That's right. And it's not hard, and there's easy ways to disrupt the veneer, right? That presentation of the perfect Christian.
Hmm.
I always like to say that the best way to hold someone accountable is to agree with them, right? And they're like, no, no, I can do all the things. You're like, cool, here's what I need you to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they're not gonna be able to do that. It's
Sure.
not what they do, right?
Sure.
I need you to not just dismiss her pain. I want you to get in her pain with her.
Hmm.
Uh, and they'll either say, no problem. You're like, great, let's see how that goes, right? And then we'll
Hmm.
talk about why it doesn't work. Or they'll be like, oh, well, but why do I have to do that? I'm like, yeah, but you just said you could do all the things. It's great. Like,
Hmm.
it's so awesome you have that level of skill. Here we go, let's go, right? And
Yeah.
then they will be like, well, wait a second. And they'll back out. And you're
Sure.
like, oh, okay, help's going on here, right? You can
Hmm.
kind
Hmm.
of not in a negative way, but help them butt up against the edge of what they think or what they say they can do and what they can actually do
Hmm.
to help them just be aware of the gap. And then
Hmm.
slowly normalizing the gap it is really hard. What I'm asking you is really hard. And the fact that you struggle to do it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's just really hard to do. But you can't just say you can do it and then it works. Like you have to, there's a working out process that comes with it.
Right.
So there's ways to work small and small ways to kind of slowly, because you can't just rip off the scab, right? It'll just be bleeding to death. We have to find ways to work at the edges to disrupt that. There's ways that you can do it that sometimes are more dramatic. Usually it's when they blow their own life up,
Hmm.
um, but helping them find the edges of where to shift and change
Hmm.
is a big way to help them begin to shift out of that posture.
Right. And when you start to feel the resistance, it's always remembering behind resistance, there is some sort of fear
Yeah,
and starting to wonder with them, right? Because if you did do this, what would that say about you? What would that mean about you? What would that say about your relationship? What would that mean about your relationship? Just looking at, as we invite them into something new, into something different, what are the blocks? What are the resistances that come up? And how do we start to gently bring
yeah.
those out and actually put words to them, organize them, help them see? It's just,
Mhm.
again, it's like what I've got to do with my kiddo. Hey, bud, you got really embarrassed. And instead of saying I'm embarrassed, you then made fun of another kid, right? Like we're just kind of also just lovingly narrate, hey, did you
Right.
notice this? Did you see this?
Yeah.
Even like what you were talking about. Oh, hey, there was something in you that said, I can do all things, but yet when I invited you into this thing, did you feel that? Did you feel that resistance in you that
Yeah.
showed up? Right? So
And
we're like trying to help them gently see,
yeah.
but welcome. It's almost like welcoming them to the club, like to
Yeah.
the brokenness club.
Yeah, well, because they're so practiced at turning their eyes away from the fear,
Hmm.
turning their eyes away from the pain, they try to stay as disconnected and detached from it as possible, which usually why all that relief shows up in these moments that or in whatever kind of behavior, then that generates more loathing, which only propels them to work harder in perfection and all the things. Um, what is the feeling that's scared? What is the feeling that is worried? What is that feeling? Can you
Hmm.
feel just even engaging in themselves, the
Right.
feeling of resistance? What does it feel like to feel that in there, right? Because it shouldn't be there. And according to you, like it shouldn't exist at all. But yet, what's it like that it is there? And then what's it like that I can feel it with you and not reject you?
Hmm.
What's it like that I can see this in you? And still you still matter to me. What's it like to feel seen and
Right.
still considered and cared for?
Hmm.
Those are very reparative experiences that once you connect and you create safety, it's easier to disrupt the protective behaviors. But if we really focus on how the protective behaviors are wrong, what we risk is just communicating to them that they have to perform even better.
Hmm.
They're still not performing good enough, and we're
Yeah.
going to teach them how to perfect their performance. And
Right.
they will try because
Yes.
that's what they do.
Yes. Yes. Because the invitation to get to know them is a very foreign invitation. But you want to know me, not my performance, not my presentation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how will they know that that's safe if we are not leading that edge with
Hmm.
compassion?
Right.
We lead too hard. Now, does that mean that we are, there's no structure or consequence because so grace can abound? Like, let's just
Hmm.
discount everything and cover it, smother it in hugs and kisses. Well, no, because we're working a strategy though, right?
Hmm.
We're trying to help someone set down their arms, not just rip it out of their hands.
Right.
Uh, their behaviors may do that to themselves, right? They may get exposed or get caught. Their consequences may be unavoidable because of something they've done. They've lost their job, and they're trying to pick up their pieces, which is a different process. But when you get that perfect Christian in the room, uh, like how we manage them has to come with a level of authority and a level of understanding with this benevolent character that is inviting them into this softness so that they're willing to be seen more. And then you increase accountability with the measure they can bear without collapsing into rejection or shame.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And these are all, I mean, going back to the place of, and why we're wanting to do this series is when we start to really get what's happening underneath the surface, we have capacity for ourselves to stay online better
That's right.
so that we don't collapse, we don't flood out when this behavior starts to come. We know it's coming.
Yep.
Like, and when we see it, we're able to go, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And even in parenting, where we go back to something is happening in them. They're not trying to do something to me.
Yes.
Something is happening in them.
Yep.
And that's the place of being able to help us stay online even better.
And I like what you're saying about that, Lindsay, because that sense of being able to practice, the more we practice being seen, the easier it is to hold that space for others.
Hmm.
And the more connected as a therapist as we are to our own brokenness, the more I allow myself to be seen by the Lord, to be seen by my spouse, I have a small group of men. That's our goal is to be present with each other and be known. The more we do that with one another, the more compassion I have for those who struggle with it, because I get it. Like me too. And I have to work on it. And I don't do that out of a sense of judgment, but the more I trust that God sees all of me
Hmm.
and he loves me and
Right.
I want to be like him, then that's the posture I'm trying to adopt with my clients of one who sees them in their brokenness that is full of compassion and grace, but to lead them in a process of transformation And then if they opt out or they quit or they don't want to do the work, then they get what they pick,
Right.
right? They can pick their life and then you get what you pick.
Right.
But when we have this window of opportunity, that's kind of what we're trying to adopt, become more like Christ, I think, in those moments that see through and invite in.
Right. And to your point, Aaron, the more that we have let Jesus and others into those deeper, darker places that, we believe if people saw they would leave, they wouldn't like us, they wouldn't want to be near us. And we find that there's connection there. Again, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's okay. There's still accountability for it. That's part of bringing it into the light. But when we do that, you start to feel the difference inside yourself of what it's like to almost be held to that presentation
Yeah.
versus walk in freedom. And it's like, I don't want to go back to the presentation. Like, I don't want to go back to that performance to looking like the perfect Christian. It's too exhausting. I'm
It's
already
so
exhausted
hard.
enough.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah.
I just, it's like once you move in to find freedom from it and to be able to walk more into the light, it's like, I don't want to go back there. And in fact, I want anything that starts to move there, let's just go ahead and start to bring that into the light.
Hmm.
Like, this feels like it's wanting to go backwards, like,
Right.
let's talk about it. Let's bring that out. Because good Lord, it's just like it's then too much. I blow up too much stuff going back that way. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's way more exhausting, and I don't want my
Yep.
body to hold any more than it has to. Like let's just get this out.
Yep. I got the picture in my head right now of like
Mhm.
David when he's about to kill Goliath, and so Saul dresses him up in his armor, and he's like, "I
Mhm.
can't move in this thing. How am I supposed to do anything? I
Right,
can't wear this. This is too
right,
heavy. It's too
right.
hard. I can't. I don't want any of this."
Mm-mm.
And to tell the king, I don't want your armor. Like
Mhm.
that's gutsy, you know?
Right,
And
right.
because he was willing to be seen as who he was, just a shepherd boy. That's who he was, but he knows how to use a sling. He was able to let people see him as he was and not feel scared to have to seek their approval or
Mhm.
do their stuff. So that metaphorical armor is like brutal. It's like
Oh,
we don't need it. Let's
100%.
put it down.
No, no, let's not do it. Well, hopefully, Aaron, today, hopefully we were able to, I don't know if exhaust is the right word, but do maybe a good arc of
Yeah,
what it can look like, ways to really conceptualize just that presentation of the perfect Christian and how to start to begin work in being with them just in a
for sure.
different way and inviting
Yeah.
them into that freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, there's so much more we could say. Like probably
Sure.
like hours we could talk about it. But
Sure.
if people have thoughts or comments, like if they would let us know, we'd love to be able to respond to those if there was things they wanted to know or
Hmm.
things you wish we share about it. We can always revisit it, but let us know.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And, just visiting our website and relationship.us is a good way to connect with us to let us know any comments, thoughts, or even if there is a what's really happening with dot, dot, dot
Yeah. Tell me
this
about this person. What's
presentation.
going on here?
Right, right. But Aaron, looking forward to continuing the conversation with you, and we will talk about another presentation next time.
It'll be fun. We'll see you then.